You can dress modestly, post Bible verses all over your home, and serve your family 3 home-cooked meals a day, and still be the kind of woman Proverbs says will destroy her home. We're warned all over Proverbs against specific types of women whose attitudes, speech, or behavior lead to destruction, both for themselves and those around them. These are meant to contrast with the wise, virtuous, and God-fearing woman of Proverbs 31. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 women Proverbs warns against and practical tips to not be her. If you're new here, I'm Kiri, and I help Christian homemakers who are living in a fog of exhaustion and stress to become the patient, peaceful mother and wife they've always dreamt of being. So I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Have you ever wondered why your home feels tense even when you're doing all the, quote, right things? It might not be your routines, it might be your heart. So the first woman we'll talk about is the contentious woman. Proverbs 21:9 says, "Better to live on a corner of a roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife." This concept is also repeated in Proverbs 25:24, 19:13, and 21:19. Proverbs 27:15 also describes her as a continual dripping on a rainy day and a quarrelsome wife are alike. This woman, she stirs up strife, she nags, argues, and creates a hostile home atmosphere. She's used as a symbol of constant unrest in the home. I used to be this woman, the one Proverbs warns about, the one who, without even realizing it, was tearing her house down with her own hands. Not because I didn't love my family, but because I was overwhelmed and I hadn't been refined yet. I'm still very much being refined, by the way. But I didn't know how to truly respect my husband or what that even looked like in the day-to-day. I had no self-control with my words. I snapped, and I allowed myself to spiral. I was constantly on edge, chronically exhausted, easily triggered by messes or whining or disobedience. Even simple things like spilled milk or sibling fights felt like too much. I was constantly in survival mode and I didn't know how to get out. So if that's where you are right now, I would love to invite you to my free training that changed everything for me. It's my 5-step biblical framework to reclaim peace in your home. And in it, I teach you how I broke free from that constant stress and overwhelm and calmed my nervous system in under 7 days. You'll learn the exact 5-step biblical framework that I use to get out of fight or flight mode and relieve my body of physical symptoms of chronic stress. I'll also show you the practical biblical method I use to renew my mind when my days felt like drudgery. You'll also get my 6-step method for preventing emotional outbursts and common triggers. And then you'll also get a free workbook so that you can follow along and begin your own transformation in 7 days. So the link for that is below, and I would love for you to join me in that workshop. So a practical tip to avoid being the contentious woman is when you want to nag, it's usually because you want some kind of control in a situation. So think to yourself in those moments, what am I afraid of? Is my fear realistic? Can I control the situation? Is it worth losing the intimacy it's costing me with my husband or children to try to control the situation? So rewind, write those questions down, and really ask yourself those questions every time you feel the need to nag. But the contentious woman isn't the only woman who can tear her home down without even realizing it. Let's talk about another woman Proverbs warns about, one that many of us accidentally become when we think we're just correcting or helping. This next woman can be outwardly committed to her family, but inwardly, she's doing more damage than she realizes. And it's the foolish woman. Proverbs 14:1 says, "The wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands, the foolish one tears hers down." This is a warning against carelessness, laziness, or unwise choices that ruin what could have been beautiful, especially within the home. I used to do something so foolish in my homemaking, and to be honest, I sometimes still do. So when someone in my family makes a mistake, and it's clearly a mistake, they already feel bad about it, I used to just let them have it. I would just totally berate them and make them feel worse about it. Until one day, my husband told me a story of a basketball coach that he had that would scream at the players if they made a mistake on the court. My husband explained that obviously everybody knew the mistake was made. The coach didn't need to berate them for it and kick them while they were down. And then my husband said something that crushed me. He said, "Don't be that coach. I know I messed up." Ever since, I try to never be that foolish coach that tears the team down instead of building the team up. My family's a team. We're all on the same team, and I can either build them up or tear them down. So, a practical tip to avoid being the foolish woman is that when I'm in a disagreement on something with my husband, I like to read and pray over Proverbs 21:1, which says, "The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will." And I understand that the Lord's will is ultimately what will prevail. And even if my husband makes the wrong choice, it's not my job to discipline him or reprove him, only to build him up and trust that the Lord is doing a work in him. But foolishness isn't always loud. It can be sneaky and subtle. This next woman, she's sweet, she's flattering, she's alluring, she's the adulterous or immoral woman. Proverbs 5:3-4 says, "For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, but in the end, she is as bitter as wormwood." Chapters 5, 6, and 7 give extended, vivid warnings about the seductive woman who leads men astray. Her path leads to death, and her flattery masks danger. While none of us are physically committing adultery, at least I certainly hope not, Proverbs 5-7 warns of more than just outward behavior. It exposes the heart posture that leads to destruction. The seductive woman is symbolic of anything that tempts us to turn our hearts away from our God-given roles and responsibilities. So ask yourself, am I emotionally present in my marriage, or have I allowed resentment, boredom, or comparison to pull me away? Do I guard my words and attitude, or am I subtly tearing down my husband with sarcasm, criticism, or coldness? Am I inviting emotional intimacy in my marriage, or am I withholding affection and vulnerability? Am I chasing emotional validation online, maybe through attention on social media or confiding too deeply in other men, instead of anchoring my identity in Christ in my marriage? Ask yourself those questions and be really honest with yourself. All right, now, the practical tip to avoid doing this is to do regular heart and home temperature checks. So for your husband, ask yourself weekly, does he feel respected, admired, and desired? Have I encouraged him lately? Have we connected emotionally and physically? Better yet, ask him these questions. Be vulnerable. For your children, are they thriving under my presence and leadership? Have I been patient, gentle, and attentive to their hearts? And then for your own soul, am I rooted in Christ, or have I let bitterness, distraction, or discontentment take root? The adulterous woman is ultimately self-seeking, but as daughters of Christ, we are self-giving. Her path leads to destruction. Ours leads to joy, life, and peace. But there's another warning, and this one is especially countercultural. It isn't about overt sin, but about an attitude many of us have quietly adopted without even realizing it: defiance. You don't have to shout to be loud. Sometimes the most defiant spirit is the one that's always right. This is the loud and defiant woman. Proverbs 7:11 says, "She is loud and wayward. Her feet do not stay at home." This woman is characterized by rebellion, restlessness, and a lack of godly restraint. She's loud, not just in volume, although she is that too, but in spirit. She resists order, disregards authority, and chafes against the calling of home. This verse paints both a literal and symbolic warning against a heart that is untamed, unsubmissive, and self-seeking. There was a season where I found myself constantly offering my opinion, correcting my husband's decisions, and feeling the need to be right. I thought I was being helpful, but it just created more tension. And so when I let go of the need to control, correct, and criticize my husband, the tone of the home became lighter. Not only did I stop all those things, but I actually learned what it meant to just be quiet. If I didn't have something wise or uplifting to say, then nothing had to be said at all, and I could just listen. So your practical application for this isn't to just be quiet in volume, but that's definitely helpful. It's about cultivating a spirit of reverence, order, and peace within your home and marriage. So here's a few ways to practically do that. Honor your husband's leadership with your words. Practice saying something like, whatever you think is best, and yeah, I trust your opinion. These simple words can be a beautiful act of trust and respect, and men thrive on respect. It's like water for them, they need it. The next one is to keep your heart pure and your side of the street clean. Even when your husband is wrong, you're still called to be faithful. God sees and he honors your obedience. And then the last one is my favorite one. I've seen so much fruit from this in my marriage is to ask your husband for his advice and genuinely consider it. Invite him into your struggles and listen to his advice with humility. Instead of resisting or explaining why his advice won't work for you, try to actually implement it with a willing heart. That act alone can help him to feel needed and appeal to something he deep down really desires, which is to be your hero. That's all they really want after all, is to be our heroes. So genuinely seek his opinion and advice. Yes, before going to Google or Facebook groups or your mom's groups. Seriously, you may be shocked at the really good advice your husband gives you. The loud and defiant woman resists God's design, but the wise woman builds her home with gentleness, reverence, and respect towards her husband. And finally, Proverbs gives us a vivid and humbling image, one that reminds us that true beauty isn't always what the world proclaims. It's not how you dress or how put together you appear. It's how you carry the weight of wisdom. This woman might look like she has it all together. And Proverbs 11:22 says, like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman without discretion. So we have this playset in our backyard. You guys might have seen it in my videos, but it's such a blessing and brings our kids so much joy. But it is truly hideous. My sweet husband, he's done everything he can to make it look better. He's sanded it, he tried staining it, ultimately decided to paint it, but nothing helped. The structure itself is just unattractive, and no amount of effort could disguise that. This verse is a vivid picture of the indiscreet woman, externally beautiful, but lacking wisdom, godliness, or restraint. Just like that playset, no matter how much you try to dress up or polish the outside, if the structure, your heart, your character, your posture before God is off, the beauty becomes almost grotesque. It's meaningless at best and repulsive at worst. Discretion, modesty, and wisdom are the adornments that make a woman truly lovely in God's eyes. As Christians, we no longer live for ourselves, but for Christ. Every decision, every word, every pursuit should be about bringing him glory and advancing his kingdom. The discreet woman understands this and lives with quiet dignity, purpose, and intentionality. She uses her time, gifts, and energy to promote his name, not her own. She seeks to make herself more lovely, not just externally, but in character and attitude and holiness. She views her role as a wife as her life's calling and highest stewardship. Her aim is to grow in her ability to love, support, and delight in her husband and children. Your relationship with your husband is one of the most sacred callings God has entrusted to you. To neglect, dismiss, or dishonor it is to overlook a core part of his beautiful design for your life. The indiscreet woman lives for herself, but the wise, lovely woman lives for Christ, honors her husband, and builds her home with grace and quiet strength. Well, it's always such a joy to have you here, and if this video stirred something in your heart, I would love to invite you to join my free workshop using the link down below. And if you'd like to join me for the Proverbs 31 Woman Challenge, it's a 22-day journey through each verse of Proverbs 31:10 through 31, and it has actionable steps to become the woman God describes. So click this next video for all the details for that, and I'll see you there.